Oh, Matakoa, greetings, relatives. As usual, it's good to be here. Thank you for inviting me again. The breath stuff, really good. My understanding is the first thing I did when I came into this world was take a breath. My understanding is the last thing I'm going to do is to exhale. So I've been told it's good to have a sacred relationship with my breath. At Sundance, the medicine man says, you're not going to eat much for a couple of days and you're not going to drink much. You better keep breathing. Anyway, so probably you know if you've been here before when we do this together, that the things that are shared with you are stuff that is in my face at the moment. Stuff that's being studied and explored. And relationship seems to be it most of the time. Relationships with my breath and with the great mystery and my body and other people. So the most challenging thing for me on this journey has been to accept that what I see in other people that I react to is a mirror. I've heard that for maybe a couple thousand years. And, this year and last year, this is a challenge for me. The philosophy of it makes sense. The great Buddha said the world's a mirror of our inner heart. The Jesus guy said, whatever you see in me is in you. So I got it at the didactic level. I understand it. And understanding it's a little bit like buying a yoga mat. You got it, right? You got it. Don't even take too much to think about that. Yeah, I have a yoga mat. There it is. Hello. I used to keep my yoga mat at the bottom of the steps. So when I came down in the morning, I had to walk over it. And the idea was if I saw it every morning, then I would do the yoga. That never did work out. So last year and this year, with the help of some politicians and relatives and other people, been studying the things I react to. And so I could catch that. My reactions are physical, emotional, mental, and it seems that those are the doorway to the spiritual. That Spirit's trying to get my attention. The next part, accepting that what I saw in you, Mr. Trump, forgive me, is a mirror of me. That Mr. Trump was a good one for me. He still is. He still is. Mr. Obama was too. I mean, I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. These people help me see some things that my mind immediately moves into judgment. And I know now, I've learned and I believe physiologically that when my mind is in judgment, my carotid arteries contract. My serotonin goes down, my cortisol goes up, my blood pressure goes up, and my immune system drops. Okay, I understand all that, and not rocket science. The other part is, for me, is the acceptance. That out there that I'm reacting to is inside of me. So now the journey is to see it, suspend my disbelief for a moment, and see if I can find that in here, not as an idea, as an emotion, and a feeling that goes with the emotion. The idea is I'm looking in the mirror. The emotion is what I'm looking for. The physical. Thoughts create emotions, and emotions create feelings in the body. Sometimes in our culture, you might hear people say, "You hurt my feelings." In other words, you are responsible for how I feel. And the corollary is, you be different so I won't be upset. Sounds logical, right? You just be different and I'll be fine. Well, one of my teachers called that caca. He was very specific. It's not chicken caca, and it's not bull caca. It's elephant caca. You are not responsible for my emotions. I am. My thoughts create my emotions. My emotions create feelings in my body. When you do something, my thoughts are judgmental and critical. My judgments create some contraction in my body, creates anger. Some people say, you make me angry. Perhaps you don't make me angry. Perhaps my judgments create my emotion of anger. And underneath my judgments is my self-importance. Oh my goodness. That's kind of embarrassing. That my opinion about you is my self-importance, my ego. The Great Spirit puts you in front of me so I can find that. Holy cow. I don't know if you ever had the experience. Sometimes being in my office, exploring stuff with people about how we react and how quickly we move into judgment, and then drive out of the office just feeling really connected, and somebody pulls in front of me. Ah, there it is. How did that get out of the holster so quickly? That's not me. I didn't do it. That's my judgment, my self-importance. You should learn how to drive. Well, he knows how to drive. Great Spirit sent him there to help me find this. He's doing his job. Great Spirit sent him. Bless you. Okay, so this is my challenge last year, this year, and maybe the rest of the show, to be looking at my training. The fact that my mind moves into judgment very quickly is really not my fault. I grew up in a family that believed in judgment. They believed that if you judge somebody loudly enough, that they'll be different. And they are. They are certainly different. So part of my learning was with my son is that the more I judged him, the more rebellious he got. Where do you reckon he learned that? Yeah. So my son was right out front about it. We're in the driveway one year. He's 55 now, but he was 17, and I was in the middle of kicking him out of the house. And he said to me, if you tell me to turn right, I'm going left. So where'd you learn that? That's dumb. Where'd you learn that? I know where he learned that. I know where I learned that. So the fact that my mind has been programmed to judgment is not my fault. It is, however, my responsibility if I don't like the consequences. That's all. If I'm okay with the consequences, it doesn't matter. Go ahead. Let's say maybe what we call free will. Go ahead and judge. It seems to be what they call instant karma. My thoughts judge you, and my carotid arteries contract. 1, 2, straight line. In this world, there's not a lot of straight lines. There's curves. That one's a pretty straight line. My thoughts judge you, my carotid arteries contract. Duh. So to experience that and take responsibility for that, and then the next step, am I willing to change that? And what would that mean? That means we would do this maneuver we call stalking ourselves. It is understood that the word stalking has a lot of negative connotations. So actually for people on this stalking path, we don't care. It's okay. Get as negative about that as you want. Who cares? For 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, 2,000 years ago, people here on Turtle Island and south that stalked themselves were considered to be on a very high spiritual endeavor. They were looking for their reactions to other people. They were looking for their self-indulgences. My self-indulgences are judgment, self-pity, fear, and self-importance. One for every direction. How holy is that? Okay, so my judgments occur when I see things that my programming was taught that's not the way it should be. This last 2 years, it's become more apparent to me that when something occurs and my judge takes over my thinking, that at that moment, I'm in conflict with the great mystery. I'm actually saying to the great mystery, this is not right. And I know what's right. You catch that? Something goes on. I don't like it. My judge says it's wrong. And I even go to the next step of believing I know what's right. Incredible. Fascinating. And how quickly that goes on. And then the corollary. The more I do that, the more uncomfortable I become. So underneath my judgments, my belief about how the world should be, is my self-importance. We could call that my ego. So stalkers, in this medicine way, are hunting for that. We're stalking that. We're not trying to repress it or make it go away or pretend that we don't have an ego. We're actively pursuing that. It's a proactive maneuver that we use our relationship with people. Oh, this morning I did it, woke up and did my meditations and the sun was out, coming out, and started a little early, and the sun's coming out, and I'm thinking, man, this is great. When I get home today, I'm gonna hang out in the sun and work in my garden, and I probably didn't get 10 miles outside of Kerrville, and it's really cloudy. And my first thought was, oh, that sucks. So I'm saying, great mystery, you blew it. I was counting on sun. You're supposed to have it sunny. I guess you know how that works. You know how that works. The great mystery is going to set it up for me to find my reactions. My ego, my self-importance, wants to explain my reactions. Why I do this because. A long time ago when I was learning about this stuff, it was required because my license didn't transfer from Arizona to Texas to take a course at a university. And I was in a graduate counseling class to get this course. And what would go on sometimes in the name of counseling, and I don't know what that is anymore, but in the name of counseling, people were working with each other, graduate students, and somebody was exploring something, and the counselor would say to the other person, you do that because. Okay, that's your diagnosis, that's your evaluation. It didn't change anything. Nothing changed. I'm still upset. You told me I do that because. And then after a while, I kind of woke up and I realized if I say to you, you do that because, I've gone from here to here. I know what's wrong with you. And if you shut up, I can fix it. So we don't do that anymore. We kind of gave that up. So now we're working with this stalking thing, which means that we explore things together and see what we can find. Because I can't fix you. Lord knows. It's a full-time job to fix me. So, and maybe I don't need fixing. Jeez, what a thought. So we want to move this to this in relationship, where I don't know what's right for you and you don't know what's right for me. We're just kind of doing this together to see how this works. So this stalking medicine is a medicine, a way of meeting the world. The premise is, like my teachings as a little person, the judgment, blame, criticism, self-importance, self-pity, those ways of meeting to the world are challenging. It really doesn't bring order to the chaos. So in order to bring order to the chaos, some ancient people developed this way of meeting the world that they called stalking ourselves. And the intent is to bring order to the chaos. instead of, why is this happening? This is supposed to be different. To acknowledge that Spirit set this up so I can find my self-indulgences. My self-indulgences weaken me. My indulgence in sugar weakens me, right? That's not rocket science. My indulgences with my self-importance weaken me. My indulgences believing I know how other people should behave, those things weaken me. And I used to think that that was theoretical or didactic or philosophical. And fortunately, there's a lot of work in neurobiology now that shows us that judgmental, critical thoughts change my physiology. This is not just theory. This is functional. My thoughts affect my body and my relationships. Long time ago, my oldest grandchild, young woman, she's 28 now. When she was 17, she said to me, "Papa, I keep choosing the wrong kind of guys." I said, "Well, okay, I'm curious about this. Tell me what you mean." She said, I get with these guys and they seem to like me just fine in the beginning, that I'm just perfect. And she said, and then after a while, they start telling me what I should change. So I need to find the right kind of guy. She said, "Help me do that, Papa." And I said, "I don't know how to do that." And she said, "Papa, you're supposed to know everything." Give me a minute. So I'll get there. So I said, "Let's go in the living room." There's a big mirror there. And I said, "Today I'd like for you to look in your eyes right now. And I'd like for you to say, 'Today I'm going to love myself just as I am.'" So she looks in the mirror after giving me one of those teenager looks. And she says, "Today I'm going to," and she stops. I said, "Takoja, granddaughter, tell me what happened." She said, "I'm about to say, like you told me to, I'm going to love myself just as I am. And I heard this voice that said, 'You're not pretty.'" "Oh, tell me how much you hear that voice." She said, "Every time I look in the mirror." I said, "Okay, and you wonder why you're depressed." I think I got a clue. If self-judgment lowers serotonin, and teenagers are going through this stuff a lot about how they look and how other people approve, every time she looked in the mirror, she heard this voice that says, "You're not pretty." And so the next part was to say to her, "Tell me how much you agree with that voice." She said, "Well, that's me, Papa." I said, "That voice is you?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "No, baby, that's not you." I said, "I held you 2 minutes after you were born. You didn't have that voice. You lived with me a whole bunch. You didn't have that voice. That voice is not you." She said, "What is it?" I said, "Well, some of us consider it our training, our programming, an implant. Don Miguel Ruiz called it a parasite." Well, that's a pretty good name for that. So we know self-judgment changes my physiology. Well, she told me when she goes to the mall and she's looking in the windows, the plate glass windows, she hears that voice. So I said to her, "Takoja, granddaughter, I've seen a few women in this lifetime. You are pretty." And she turned her head away. "What?" I said, "You didn't hear me." She said, "Papa, I'm not pretty." I said, "You agree with that voice?" She said, "Yes, Papa." I said, "You can't hear the voice of love. All you can hear is the voice of self-judgment." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I've seen a lot of women in my lifetime. Everybody that comes in my office and sees your picture on my altar says, 'Oh, what a pretty girl. Who is that?' And she's, man, she ain't hearing it. What's in the way? The voice of judgment. She can't hear through that." So she said, "Papa, what does this all have to do with finding the right kind of guy?" I said, "That voice changes something." She said, "What, Papa?" I said, "Baby, wounded fish attract sharks. That's how the great mystery set it up." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "If the wolf is hunting caribou on the tundra, he's looking at the one that limps. The other ones will kick his brains out. And he knows that. He's looking for the wounded one. He said, Takoja, grandchild, it's possible. You've been attracting young men that know that you can be affected by their approval or disapproval, like a leaf at the mercy of the wind. They approve you're good. They don't approve you're not so good. Who's in charge of you, Takoja? She said, how do I change this, Papa? I said, first we'll separate you from the voice in your mind that judges you. And it's interesting because she went to a Christian preschool and school all the way up for a while. And she learned a lot about judge not. She didn't learn much about judgment headed this way. So let us say she learned yin, but they left out yang, right? East-west. So if I'm always looking at the world from the east, I'm missing what it looks like from the west. There's more, right? We're in the world of two. Born, die, east, west, male, female, up, down, right, left. We're in the world of two. So it was fun to be with her and share this stuff with her, because she said, if I don't judge myself anymore, things will change. And I said, absolutely. She said, how do I do that? So what we did, we played around. We put her judge in a chair. And I said, pretend that's the voice in your mind that doesn't seem to like you. Tell me what color it is. She said, it's ugly gray. I said, yeah, it is. Tell me how big it is. She said, it's bigger than me, Papa. And I said, it may be, baby. She said, where did I get that? It's not your fault. That was given to you when you were little. Our culture is very judgmental. Y'all on social media? There's a place you can find it. I saw this thing, not too much, that a lady I'm with showed me this thing about this lady, J-Lo, is married to this guy, Ben Affleck. He does some cool movies. The one, The Accountant, that was really cool. Anyway, they were at some award thing, and there was a whole bunch of stuff about the way they were with each other. And I'm thinking, what is all this diagnosis about how they are? I mean, they are how they are. But then this lady was showing me all this diagnosis, this evaluation, this interpreting of what every move meant. And boy, that'd be tough. That'd be tough. If you listen. If you're not interested, it's like the wind, right? Okay. So a while ago, a relative, Hunka relative by adoption, her name was Jermaine Sittingcrow, older sister, Danke, to me. She said to me, and this is a lady who didn't go any farther than 4th grade, lived on a reservation. And if you could escape the school, you did. Anyway, so she would say to me, Mishu, younger brother, if you don't love yourself, other people's words can be like an arrow into your heart. And if you learn to love and honor yourself, other people's words are like an arrow through smoke. Smoke don't care. It just keeps getting higher. I said, yeah, sign me up. I'm up for that. Let's just keep getting higher. So stalking myself is looking at my reactions. And here's the other part of it. It works both ways. Somebody can be very judgmental and critical, and I can look for my judgment and decide whether or not I want to drop it. Or somebody can just be like the Buddha or Jesus, where I don't see anything but light. And you know, there's been as much difficulty accepting that as there is other stuff, to accepting the light. I can seem to accept the darkness a whole bunch better. And a friend of mine's an astrologer, and he says, that's because you're a Scorpio, and you have 4 planets in Scorpio, and Chiron, which is the wounded healer or something like that. I said, okay, I understand all that, and I still have this inheritance, this quick judgment. It's not me. It's my training. It's not my fault. However, it is my responsibility if I don't like the consequences. And the consequences are in relationship with my body, with other people, and with the great mystery. So, thank you for letting me do this today. I appreciate it. Y'all help me find my light. Thank you.